Nobody joins a cult. Nobody joins something they think is going to hurt them. You join a religious organization, you join a political movement, and you join with people that you really like.
I think in everything that I tell you about Jim Jones, there's going to be a paradox. Having this vision to change the world, but having this whole undercurrent of dysfunction that was underneath that vision.
Some people see a great deal of God in my body. They see Christ in me, a hope of glory.
He said, if you see me as your friend, I'll be your friend. As you see me as your father, I'll be your father. He said, if you see me as your God, I'll be your God.
Jim Jones talked about going to the Promised Land, and then pretty soon we were seeing film footage of Jonestown.
Rice, black-eyed peas, Kool-Aid.
We all wanted to go. I wanted to go. People's Temple truly had the potential to be something big and powerful and great. And yet, for whatever reason, Jim took the other road.
On the night of the 17th, it was still a vibrant community. I would never have imagined that 24 hours later they would all be dead.
Die with a degree of dignity. Don't lay down with tears and agony. It's nothing to death, it's just stepping over into another plane. Don't be this way.
I vividly remember the first time that I met Jim Jones. My sister Carolyn had invited my parents and my younger sister and I to visit her in Potter Valley. We came and there was this strange man in her house and her husband wasn't there. Annie and I were sent out to go on a walk. When we came back, something had happened. Something terrible had happened because everyone had red eyes except for Jim Jones. We didn't really get the story until we were in the car going home. He was carrying on an adulterous relationship with my sister. And because his wife couldn't relate to him as a wife, that Carolyn had taken over that role. Everything was plausible, except in retrospect, the whole thing seems absolutely bizarre.
The first time I visited People's Temple, I drove at the urging of a friend and a co-worker to Redwood Valley.
We all got suited down, neck tied and everything, and we were sharp.
As soon as I walked in to the San Francisco Temple, I was home.
I was one of those kind of guys that I used drugs. I was an alcoholic. I drank alcohol and stuff like that. And all these people that were like my age, they were clean.
Before I came here, I was taking LSD, marijuana, every type of dope you can imagine. Without our pastor Jim Jones to teach me the right way, I would not be in college right now.
And for me, that was like, wow, man, I liked it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
It was an interracial group. The choir was interracial. And they used to sing this song, never heard a man speak like this man before. Never heard a man speak like this man before. All the days of my life, ever since I've been born, I never heard a man speak like this man before. After they sang one or two songs, the whole place was lit up.
The People's Temple services, they had life, they had soul, they had power. We were alive in those services.
I would be up jumping in the balcony and clapping my hands. If you came in as a stranger and didn't know anything about the politics, you were thinking you were entering an old-time religion service.
By the time Jones did come out to do his speaking, the table had already been set.
I represent divine principle, total equality, a society where people own all things in common, where there is no rich or poor, where there are no races, wherever there's people struggling for justice and righteousness, there I am, and there I am involved.
What he spoke about were things that were in our hearts. The government was not taking care of the people. There were too many poor people out there. There were poor children.
The world is like a human family. The little child may not be able to go and draw a paycheck, but the father guarantees the child care. The grandmother may not be able to work anymore, but the father and mother guarantees her the right to live.
Every single person felt that they had a purpose there and that they were exceptionally special. And that is how he brought so many young college kids in, so many older black women in, so many people from diverse backgrounds who realized that there was something bigger than themselves that they needed to be involved in, and that Jim Jones offered that.
I went home, told Mom, you know what, this is the right church for me. It was the next week that I became a member of People's Temple.
There's a little town in Indiana. The moment I think of it, a great deal of pain comes. As a child, I was undoubtedly one of the poor in the community, never accepted, born, as it were, on the wrong side of the tracks.
I grew up with Jimmy Jones. We started first grade together. My brothers used to go over to Jimmy's house and hung around his barn, which was where he played.
From the time I was 5 years old, I thought Jimmy was a really weird kid. There was something not quite right. He was obsessed with religion. He was obsessed with death.
My brothers came back with stories of him conducting funerals for small animals that had died.
A friend of mine told me that he saw Jimmy kill a cat with a knife. Well, having a funeral for it was a little strange. Killing the animal was very strange.
Jimmy's father did not work, did not have a job, and was a drunk. Jim's mother had to work in order to support the family.
And he was kind of left to his own devices. You know, kind of the kid who ran wild in the street, you know what I mean? Listen, he was in a dysfunctional family. We got a nice name for it now. But when you live in a dysfunctional family, you think it's normal.
Feeling as an outcast, I'd early developed a sensitivity for the problems of blacks. I brought the only black young man in the town home, and my dad said that he could not come in, and I said, then I shan't, and I did not see my dad for many years.
I'm a soldier.
In Lynn, Jim Jones looked for community and couldn't find community in Lynn as a town, which had a population of, 1,000 people. But he did find community in the Pentecostal church.
He saw that they were a surrogate home. He saw that the preachers were like father figures to their congregations, and that role represented power over the lives of your congregation.
Jim Jones started out on the revival preaching circuit, learning the ropes of being a preacher, and once he started doing that, it became clear that he could get a following.
The first time I met Jim Jones was Easter 1953. My mother-in-law, Edith Cardell, had a monkey and it hung itself. And she wanted to replace the monkey. So she looked in the Indianapolis Star, and in that Indianapolis Star was Jim Jones's ad that he had some monkeys to sell. So it was through that she met Jim Jones and came back saying that he'd invited her to church this next Sunday.
Oh, Father, in the name of the divine Son, in the name of the life-giving presence, speak in our hearts now.
It didn't make no difference what color you were. There was everybody welcome there in that church, and he made it very plain from the platform.
We had some people that disagreed with Jimmy that got up in the audience and said they disagreed with him. They did not like this integration part of this services. We did ask people to leave the church one night because of that.
I was the first Negro child adopted by a Caucasian family in the state of Indiana. Jim and Marceline actually went to adopt a Caucasian child. The story goes that I was crying real loud, and it drew attention for Marceline to come over. And once she picked me up, I stopped crying. My family was a template of the Rainbow family. We had an African American. We had 2 American Asian, and we had his natural son, homemade.
Jim was breaking new ground in race relations at a time when the ground was still pretty hard against that. Jim Jones was hated and despised by some people, particularly in the white community.
There had been pressures on him to leave Indianapolis. He thought that Indianapolis was too racist of a place for him to be, and he wanted to take his people out.
California is perceived to be a very progressive state. This would be the place to implement the dream of racial equality, not Indianapolis, which seems hopeless, but California, which seems to be the promised land.
He chose Ukiah in Northern California, about 90 miles north of San Francisco, because there was an article in Esquire magazine that said that Ukiah was one of the 9 places in the world that in the event of thermonuclear attack, people would survive.
I told Edith, if you follow Jimmy to California, you're crazy. So what did Jimmy do but took her to a psychiatrist and sent me a certified letter that she is of sound mind and she is not crazy. I was there the afternoon that Edith drove away. I didn't know I'd never see her again.
The move to California was really fun. There were about 12, 15 cars driving across the United States and making that journey to a place none of us knew, none of us could even imagine. We were going to California, our new world.
When I saw Redwood Valley, I couldn't believe my eyes because it was like a paradise. It was rural, it was green, there were grapevines everywhere, and I fell in love. I said, this has got to be a perfect way to live.
Started with about 141 people, and from that we've grown to a very thriving congregation. We have about every level of society, all socioeconomic income strata, from professional down to the ordinary field worker, field labor. Really, it's beautiful to see that all these divisions have been broken down, not only race, but any differences of economic position.
The focus of Jim's message was the taken from the Bible,
where Jesus, in his earliest days, told people to sell all things and have all things in common.
Jesus Christ had the most revolutionary teachings to be said, in the sense that he said to feed the hungry, clothe the naked, take in the stranger, minister to those, the widows and afflicted in their suffering. And we feel that no one really tried Christianity too effectively, or the Judeo-Christian tradition.
The membership increased substantially as he procured more and more Greyhound buses and fixed them up. And every summer he began this cross-country tour.
The purpose of the bus trips was to spread Jim's beliefs about socialism and the world and how we can live a better life and about an integrated lifestyle. But behind that, I think it was to gather more members for the temple.
I decided not to go to Vietnam, and I was just at the point of what am I going to do with myself. I heard Jim Jones was going to be coming to Philadelphia and coming to Benjamin Franklin High School. And I went Wednesday night, and I listened to him, and I was impressed by how it was such an interracial group, and people were really happy.
You got nothing to lose. Who else is going to stand, look you in the face and say, come and I'll give you a job. Come and I'll give you a home. Come and I'll give you a bed. So I got nothing but a pension. Don't leave your pension behind. Who else will tell you that? Who'll tell you I'll put you on that bus tomorrow?
I heard Jim Jones talking about equality among races, what it's like in living in California, in the Redwood Valley, the good works that they're doing, things that I wanted to get involved with but didn't even know where to make an entree. And all of a sudden the answer was there.
Somebody is going to get on the Freedom Train in Philadelphia.
He was there for 3 evenings, and the third evening I went off in the bus and came to California.
Surely, he's able to carry.
When I joined People's Temple in the spring of 1966, there were exactly 81 members. 5 years later, an extended family of 80 people had become an organization of thousands.
People's Temple really was a black church. It was led by a white minister, but in terms of the worship service, commitment to the social gospel, its membership, it functioned completely like a black church.
He talked black. He really understood it. He understood how it was to be treated differently. And that's from his roots coming out of Lynn.
When people heard Jim, they didn't look upon him as being a white preacher, you know. People didn't look at Jim as being white. He was not white. He was just their preacher.
You going to go to Texas with me when I have that campaign?
I was just wondering whether I could go or not. I'm about to go.
Why, of course you'll go. You went to Mexico with me.
As older people joined, it took a year or so, and he'd convinced the people that, he was doing so much in the community. And so why not, rather than just tithe your 20%, why not sell your home? Give the money to the church. And that is what people began to do.
Now in this church, what have we done in a short time? We have 4 senior citizen homes that are the most innovating, the most beautiful you want to see.
They had their own rooms, they had every need taken care of, they had their food provided. They were well looked after.
Now my home is stone blocked and there's not a piece of new furniture in it, but our senior citizen homes, they're elegant. And that's beautiful.
They were giving their life's money and savings to the church, but in exchange, the church was agreeing to take care of them in a community, not just in a nursing home.
Surely, he's able to carry you through.
Well, it got to the point where there were so many duties in the temple that some people had to become full-time. So when you were full-time temple, you worked about 20 hours a day.
My week kind of ran like this. I'd work my regular job on Mondays, you know, from 8 to 5. Then I'd work on files.
There were people who ran rest homes. There were animals to be taken care of. There were the publications. Everybody had a job.
Wednesday night we'd have a meeting in Redwood Valley, and I'd go to the meeting for till probably 10 or 10:30.
We turned our paychecks over every time we got paid. And then we got an allowance, $5 a week.
And Friday I'd go to work, and I'd get off of work, and I'd hop on the bus or drive the bus to San Francisco.
If I had to go to the doctor, was taken care of. If I had to go to the dentist, it was taken care of. If I needed clothes, that was taken care of.
And often on Saturday night we'd have planning commission meetings till 2 or 3 in the morning.
We would always try to let each other know next day, well, how long did you sleep? Oh, I slept 2 hours. You only slept 2? Well, I slept an hour and a half.
And then Sunday we'd have a Sunday morning service, and then around 1 o'clock, hop on the buses, drive up, drop people off in San Francisco, and drive up to Redwood Valley.
The longest I ever stayed awake was 6 days, and that's with no coffee, no nothing.
It changed over the years, but it was always busy.
Being in an environment where you're constantly up, you're constantly busy, and you're made to feel guilty if you take too many luxuries like sleeping, you tend to not really think for yourself. And I did allow Jones to think for me because I figured that he had the better plan. I gave my rights up to him, as many others did.
Edie? Are your fingers numb in your right hand? Reach the fingers out that are bothering you. Now, is the pain gone?
There was a senior citizen, and we nicknamed her Power. He would have her to come up in the midst of one of his meetings, and she used to say, "The man got power. The man got power, y'all." And the whole place would just go wild.
Take your glasses off. Let's just dare in our faith. Now, look at my face. I love you. The people love you. And most importantly, Christ loves you. What do you see?
One finger.
One finger.
One of the most incredible healings to me was this little old lady, and she was in a wheelchair. Jim said, "Darling, you know, today is your day. You're gonna get healed today." He said, "We're gonna heal those legs of yours. You're gonna walk again." And the whole auditorium went totally crazy.
Come forth, my dear. Stand out. Take that step. Bless your heart. Take that step.
And she takes this real slow, shaky step. She said, "I can feel it." He said, "Yes, I know you can feel it. Now take your other leg and do it." And it's another real slow, shaky step. And he says, "Now I want you to walk toward me."
Move forward. Move forward. Move forward, darling. You can do it.
And she starts taking forward steps. And pretty soon, she is walking. And she starts walking up one of the aisles. And pretty soon she's running. Well, by this time, the whole congregation's running down these aisles with us. We're all just running around the aisles, just hooping and hollering up a storm. Later, I found out that this person that I had seen healed and cried with was really one of the secretaries made up to look crippled and blind.
Never shall forget what he's done for me. Oh, what he's done for me. Oh, what he's done for me. Oh, what he's done for me. I never shall forget what he's done for me.
For those people that hadn't grown up in the apostolic world, Jim would say, you know, I know this is different for you, but for people to come from extremely religious backgrounds so that I can bring them forward to the message that's so important for all of us today, and that is activism, then I need to speak on each person's level.
He said, a lot of you people, you Christian people coming in, you're so hung up on this Bible. He said, this black book has held down black people for the last 200 years. He said, but I'm going to show you this has no power. So he leaned way back like a football player, and he flung it. And when he flung it and let it go, the place got dead quiet. Like, and he waited till it hit the floor. Pow! When it hit the floor, he stood and he looked back and forth. He said, now, did you see any lightning come from the sky and strike me dead?
You're going to help yourself or you'll get no help. There's only one hope of glory. That's within you. Nobody's going to come out of the sky. There's